Here we go. It is new episode time, and defying societal norms by confronting adversity head on. Taylor carved her unique path to triumph after finding herself pregnant at 16. She is now joining us just a few days after getting married. So congratulations, Taylor, and welcome to That Entrepreneur Show.
Well, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to dive in, learn a bit more about your journey. She is the powerhouse behind the exclusive agency 12 Tables, a bespoke collective of high achievers that supports cutting-edge startups and Fortune 50 companies. She's a global connector, a fiery business strategist, and one dynamic speaker. Her magnetic personality, tenure in digital transformation, and forever student mindset have led to her creative, effectively encompassing strategies for a wide range of clients. And a big shout out to Alyssa for bringing her on the show today. We'll also learn a bit about her own podcast. So get ready to add one more to your queue. 12 Minutes Podcast. What was your motivation behind creating the podcast, Taylor?
Yeah, so it's actually a project I've been sitting on for a few years. It's scary because, especially with a podcast, it's not going to be successful if you're not willing to be vulnerable and authentic. And I didn't want to be just, somebody else kind of saying the same thing, not giving real meat to the bones. And I also knew it was a huge undertaking in terms of time commitment. So, this year I really stepped into my power, if you will, and said, I have a story to tell. Just because other people don't want to be vulnerable or make a podcast doesn't mean that I can't or can't want to. And then in that same breath, I have a very busy schedule like most entrepreneurs. And I thought, well, I always have at least 12 minutes. That's most of the time my shortest commute. So I thought, well, geez, if I could do a podcast in just 12 minutes, that other people probably could, benefit from that as well.
I think that's a lot of good motivation for everyone out there, whether it be a podcast or that project that's just been waiting to get going. Find ways to make time. And your podcast is called 12 Minutes Podcast?
Yeah, it's a 12 Minutes Podcast with Taylor.
All right, everyone, be sure to go ahead, pause the episode, go add that to your queue. But be sure to stick around for the spotlight story at the end of the show. We have a great article coming ahead from Entrepreneur Online, so stay tuned. And before we get going, I have to show love to our summer sponsor, Cesar Cervantes, TEDx and performance speaking coach. He helps you get on the TEDx stage. So if that's something you're looking to do, scroll to the episode description, find out how to get in touch with him. But without waiting anymore, we mentioned you had a child young. You went into this world of what are you going to do? It led you to entrepreneurship somewhere along that path. Let's talk about that with our listeners. What brought you to the show today?
Boy, that's a really long journey. And it honestly is an interesting one. So I was actually a showbiz kid. Whole life thought I would be a performer, wanted to go to Northwestern, whether it was an actress or somebody on Broadway. That was really the skill set and the art form that I had really a lot of passion at a young age for. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was 16 years old. I was only a sophomore in high school. So I actually had my daughter in June going into my junior year of high school. And at that point, I really just thought, my world was over. Naturally, I, had a lot of naysayers from just, my parents' peers and my teachers talking about, gosh, you're just a baby having a baby. And quite frankly, I don't think I really understood that dynamic and what they were referencing until I was much older, really in my early 30s. But, what it is I've always learned really from my parents. They instilled you can either be a victim or a survivor, and the choice is yours in any given situation. And so I just kind of switched my mind to say, how can I make something great out of this? And what I decided was I was going to go and seek knowledge. Knowledge is power. And when I graduated high school, I really wanted to prove, honestly, at that point to myself that I could still make something of myself. And I didn't want to end up being just another teen mom statistic. Coincidentally, when I was pregnant at 16, that popular show on MTV, 16 and Pregnant, was like all the rage. So it was a very uncomfortable societal norm and stigma associated with teen pregnancy that I really wanted to combat. But I also didn't want that to be the foundation of who I am. It's just an experience that I had. And so that being said, I was able to kind of forge my way and graduating, top of my class and a student body president, prom queen, which was something that was actually titled from the teachers and the students alike. And that was the first kind of step where I proved to myself, hey, I can do anything I put my mind to. Then I went on into college and I had a full ride scholarship to college. And I flunked out within my first year because I moved out of my parents' house, kind of, I call it playing house. I was working 2 jobs and I took 6 classes. The first one starting, early morning, and really committed, for lack of a better term, freshman suicide. I set myself up for complete failure, and I didn't have that mentorship. Neither of my parents are college grads, so I really didn't have that mentorship saying, hey, this is how we should handle this, taking a different approach than the way that I was just gung-ho going all in on everything. And the reality is you can't be everything to everyone. So I learned that really young. So to combat that, I started as a waitress. So I was in the hospitality space, started as a waitress, and was approached by the essentially managing partner of that particular chain of restaurants that was wanting to franchise and looking for an executive assistant. So at 19 years old, I immediately got a seat at the table, if you will, with a founder looking to franchise, brilliant at the basics in hospitality. And I was working for a really smart billionaire, essentially. And I was able to take a lot of goods from that. He provided a lot of different books from, Malcolm Gladwell, John Maxwell. And I learned about 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, read Outliers. And all of this kind of gave me these aha moments as to how you have what I call entrepreneurship, which is where you become an owner in your role of a corporation. So you're not an entrepreneur, you're not full responsible for the company, but you're taking full responsible for your position. And I did that for the next 4 years, from about 19 to the time I was 23. So every position I had, I took it so seriously, and I just kept climbing that corporate ladder. I remember at one point, I was working as a front desk administrator, and the company had about 200 employees, and I learned every employee's name. And my biggest responsibility was this candy bowl that they would visit in the very front of the building. And I decided, well, how could I make this interesting? So I made it interesting aesthetically. I would put the same colored candy, like pull out from this mixed bag, or I would make different patterns in the candy. And so it gave people a reason to go see the candy bowl that day. And the corporate executives took note of that. So every position, I really just heads down, tried to master it. And I kept my eyes and ears open. Fast forward, I worked my way from front desk administrator to the IT release manager, helping make really big tech decisions. I was at the forefront of the IoT boom when most people didn't understand what IoT was. I was flying, with my boss on the corporate jet over to Silicon Valley and having an understanding of what was going on out there. At the time I was in construction. So it was all about how is construction innovating and what are the different products and tools and means and methods that we can bring back home and have early adopters so that we can, have a disruptive and have a key value proposition and differentiator to our competitors. So I was already thinking like that in my early 20s. And that being said, fast forward, I decided that after doing a lot of the research from a steering committee side on different companies, I was starting to slowly get poached. Hey, come work for us. Hey, come work for us. And I thought, well, hey, consultants can work for anybody. And that's when I approached my company at the time that I was working for, that I wanted to go off and try entrepreneurship.
I love it. Well, you brought it up right there. Now you're on your company. What are some takeaways? What are some things our listeners should know about your company?
Yeah, so I am a serial entrepreneur. My main core business is actually myself. So myself as a service, I'm a business strategist. So I love working with innovative and really passionate entrepreneurs with a neat idea. Anybody that's looking that they're too close, I call it like the forest through the trees. I really help entrepreneurs save some space. Process is something I'm super passionate about, along with people and profits. So those 3 really go hand in hand. So my core business offering is, as a business strategist, I really help entrepreneurs that are in that growth stage. They're wanting to take their business to the next level and or looking to sell their business. So productizing maybe a service that actually can be operable once they're gone. That's my core offering. So Taylor Precourt Business Strategist, which I offer a lot of insights in my 12-minute podcast. So 12 minutes podcast is a new thing to me, but it's something that I'm really passionate about and dedicating a lot of time into. Then I also created an exclusive collective of independents and agencies called 12 Tables. So
Okay.
oftentimes as a business strategist, I have companies that are in need of the execution part of the strategy that we've created. And so I really show up to my clients' offices with a trench coat on. I'm kind of like the guy with many watches and saying, hey, you know, this is really your guy for those landing pages, or this is the girl that I would leverage for Google ads. If you're in the beauty industry versus if you're in tech, it might be this person. So I have an arsenal, if you will, of collective agents and independents that's called 12 Tables. So I oftentimes am referring business in and out of 12 tables.
I love
And
it.
then another business venture that is new to our plate and really new to the ecosystem is a company called Think and Prompt.
Okay.
So Think and Prompt, we actually teach corporate marketing teams, sales teams, and executive assistants how to use AI, generative AI, Chat GPT being the place that we actually started in terms of our coursework. But this is the new internet and it's not changing. And as a business strategist, it's really critical in my day-to-day role that I stay up to date with the Joneses, if you will, on
Yeah.
technology. So having Think and Prompt in our arsenal to be able to equip entrepreneurs, executive assistants, sales teams, and marketing teams as to how they can augment pieces of their role to create bigger efficiencies within the company. This is honestly going to become a timeless skill set. So I'm really, really excited for the launch of Think and Prompt. We actually launch in September.
All right, definitely. We'll just try to coordinate maybe the show around that then when this comes out.
Yeah.
You just brought up something AI. It's here, whether we like it or not. We have to find ways to learn it, or we're just gonna be left behind. What is one AI tool that you can recommend to our audience today?
Well, I mean, I would say it's the Chat GPT, tried and true.
Yeah.
So even if it's the unpaid version, there's so much you can do. Prompting is really where the knowledge hub is going to be critical because it's garbage in, garbage out. You really have to learn how are you asking the question for the bot to really give you a sound answer. But we're to the point now of expertise where we can do financial modeling, by leveraging Chat GPT, just knowing what to say and how to say it. So I think the fun thing would be if you're already using Chat GPT, don't forget to tell it to tell you in the voice of. So for example, you could say, make a 30-second elevator pitch in less than, 100 words about this company that does this thing in the voice of Ryan Seacrest. And see what you get. It's pretty funny. Or
That's
then you
funny.
could, then say the voice of Sarah Jessica Parker, and it's like, hello, darling.
That is
It's really
cool.
kitschy and fun.
I did not know that. We've covered so much already. We've looked into your business, your history, your podcast. But before the spotlight story, I would love to see which lesson from motherhood have you been able to carry right over into entrepreneurship? I'm sure there's a dozen of them, but one that really sticks out for you.
Sure. Yeah. For me, I've always considered myself to be a bit of a radical entrepreneur. Radical in the sense that if you're with other entrepreneurs in an incubator setting, they have this pride of, oh man, I practically live here. I forget to pee. I didn't even have lunch today. That's how busy I am. Man, I might as well not even have an apartment, live out of my car. All of that to me, it's the problem with entrepreneurship. And I think because I was a mother so young, and my daughter is actually getting ready to move, I'm moving her into her dorm room on Friday, into her university. So how bananas is that? So I almost have grandparent syndrome in my 30s because I can actually tell you how fast it goes by and how fleeting time is, right? It's really a thief, truly. So for me with entrepreneurship and motherhood, I take a very different approach. And what motherhood has taught me about entrepreneurship is to be as productive and busy are not the same thing. And I don't have to be busy to be successful. Therefore, I can be present because with my daughter, my oldest daughter, I wasn't nearly as present and flexible schedule as I am now, but I have learned to create the life that'll give me that presence because it's something I've had to grieve while I I climbed up the corporate ladder and fought for a voice, right, in the business sector.
Yeah, that's
So I
that
think
nine to
that would be my
five
biggest
world.
thing. Like, slow down, you can slow down.
I think something that helps and goes with that is planning, not just jumping into things and feeling like you're that hectic busy. And I'm sure we're all guilty of it at some point, but something I do last few years, I time block my whole day. And that's something that just really keeps me on point and not too far all over the
Yeah.
place. But we're
And
going to
not
continue.
saying yes to everything, you know?
Exactly. That's something now I've started to do more and more. My kindness got, I guess you could say, abused in some ways, not really abused, but I value my time very much. And of course, things do come up, but I communicate those issues if something is not working out. And I've had my time wasted just one too many times now. Not that I think that I'm better than anyone else, but we all don't deserve to have our time wasted. If I have multiple cancellations from the same person, and then they forget social media is connected, they would post something, and I'm like, we just had a meeting, but that could be a whole nother podcast episode. We're going to dive into this spotlight story. And excuse me, earlier I said entrepreneur. It's from Forbes Online. We're going to look at how motherhood inspired these 12 entrepreneurs to start companies. I'll read a few of the first of them, and then we'll get our guest take on it, maybe some overlaps. Here we have Sonia and Manisha, co-founders of Playfully. The two are the co-founders of this company, which is a baby and child development app that helps busy parents promote their child's development through at-home play. Both of the moms have two kids, who found their life purpose in building a company that makes it easy for parents 0 to 3 to engage with their kids in meaningful ways. When Manisha started taking her premature baby, born at 28 weeks, to an occupational therapist, her eyes were open to the importance of play. She began thinking about how to make that specialist's knowledge accessible to other parents, and I love that. The next one it touches on is Amber and Sherry, co-founders of Salt, or it's SAALT. I may be saying it wrong. The feminine hygiene market is projected to be at $6.2 billion industry in the US and 40 billion globally by 2020. So this article is a few years back. But Salt, which creates reusable menstrual cups, is at the forefront of brands making period care sustainable. These two co-founders are mothers of multiple kids and believed that women needed safer and more environmentally friendly options for period care. They launched their nationwide push at Target and now is available everywhere. They commit 2 of their annual revenue to donate to period care and help fund initiatives in girls' education, empowerment, and sustainability. So another really great story there. And the next one I'm going to touch on before bringing her back on is Hannah and Anne Louise, the co-founders of Hobby. Prior to having children, these two were at Stanford, Harvard, and Princeton, graduating with their MBAs and working as international management consultants. They were also dear friends who had known each other for 15 years, and becoming moms gave them a different perspective and motivation to tackle new challenges. They both left their high-powered corporate jobs, similar to our guest today, to start their own company, and this company focuses on intentional educational products, play, and early childhood development. As of September 9th, when this article was released, they launched their own product aimed at making it easy to teach kids Chinese or Spanish. There are a series of bilingual books accompanied by a reading wand that makes kids come alive. I think that's absolutely amazing. All of these companies are doing such good work. What are some of your takeaways here?
Yeah, it's really interesting because when it comes to motherhood and entrepreneurship, a lot of mothers go from motherhood to entrepreneurship because of something that happened during their maternal experience. They see, it's kind of like that see something, say something. I have a girlfriend from college that ended up graduating with a degree, working for a marketing agency, had a baby, and then she ended up creating bibs because there was no, in her opinion, proper bibs. So I love the fact that, motherhood does allow us this opportunity to be observant in a different way, to see innovation differently, and to be able to innovate on different ideas. So I think those are some of my, key takeaways. And even feminine care, because we also have some clients that are in the beauty business, whether it's hair or face, and some of them aren't, moms necessarily. They're just women, but they're already paying attention to self-care. So I could imagine those particular entrepreneurs, by the time that they have a child, it's really, they're bound to create something to also simplify or care for the whole person through that journey into motherhood. But I really liked when we contributed to this article for Forbes, actually, because I was curious to see if all of our stories would be really similar, and they weren't.
I think that you said that perfectly. And the article mentions a lot in each case where their perspective was just changed. Having a child, everything changed. That's something you would agree with.
Oh gosh, Lord knows your schedule changes. You're in control, but you're not, you know?
I love it. Well, before I let you go here, which entrepreneur throughout history are you choosing to sit down with, dead or alive, for a conversation?
Oh, this is very interesting. I've been asked this question multiple times. I'm a just, I love Oprah.
Can't argue Oprah.
I mean, I just love Oprah. Oprah said something that I'll just keep with me forever because it's a jewel. And she had written when she was young in a journal before any of her successes that what she wanted out of life was to create a life where she would be surrounded by beautiful things to remind her of how beautiful her life was. And to me, things are people and things are things, but it was just the most beautiful statement because I thought that's what we really need to be achieving here. It's not fame, it's not followers, it's not likes, it's just the beauty of life. Are you really creating a life that you don't need a vacation from? And it's so interesting that that was her sentiment at such a young child, and she truly manifested it into fruition. So
I love her
you get a car.
story. Yeah, exactly. In the beginning of this show, now it's 3.5 years. I've run out of. I used to just do an entrepreneur's journey, and we would dissect the journey. Obviously, Oprah was probably like the fifth one or something, and her
Yeah.
story getting fired from the radio station, then just coming
Yes.
back with a vengeance and just
Total
doing
resilience.
doing it bigger than anyone's ever done it, even
Yeah.
today. Delve deeper. Where are you going to sit down with Oprah?
Ooh. Oh gosh, if it would be anywhere in the world, I'd want to find somewhere that actually I find a lot of peace in. So I'd want to go on a hike. If it had to be US, it'd be Yellowstone. If it had to be Europe, it'd be the Amalfi Coast. Somewhere
I
that just puts in nature, into community.
I can't argue with that. That's one of my favorite places I've ever visited. And in Positano, I had the
Oh
best
gosh, yeah,
time. Um,
incredible.
Down the road, certainly would love to get back. But for now, we are talking all things entrepreneurship on That Entrepreneur Show. Where again can we find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me at Taylor_Precourt on Instagram. And also you can download and listen the 12 Minutes podcast on Spotify. Just look up 12 Minutes. That's what I got.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you so much for joining.
LinkedIn, I do use LinkedIn, sorry, as a platform a lot. So if you are looking to reach out to me one-on-one, feel free to look on LinkedIn.
All right, we got the LinkedIn, we got the podcast, we got the website. Everyone be sure to go check out her great content. We are at That Entrepreneur Show and at Vincent A. Lancy. Be sure to head to Vincent A. Lancy on YouTube to get a behind-the-scenes clip from today's show. And with that, we are signing off. Taylor, thank you so much once again, and congratulations on your new milestone.
Thank you, Vincent. Take care. Bye, guys.